Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Joe
and Joe
Weather
Show.
Yes, and the Joe and Joe Weather Show is as it is every night, and very proudly so. Every night is brought to you by.
Omni True Value. Do you have mulch? Do you have salt?
Hold on. I gotta
Did you
get
have problems this morning?
Hold on. I gotta get the graphic up. I'm a little bit behind the wheel here. Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. And you needed them today because we had wet snow and then fluffy snow on top of it. So there was a nice coating of ice everywhere on all the roads across Long Island and much of the tri-state area from what we had last night. And Omni is the tri-state area's largest provider of rock salt, along with all the snow and ice products that are out there, like Pelleto, Mag, ice pellets and flakes. And of course, they've got spreaders, snow blowers, and just about everything you need to make your home safe during this winter season. And if you're a contractor or if you're in the snow removal business, you need your supplies. You can get them at Omni, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. So as we start this show tonight, Mr. Ray, I just want you to know something. I just spent the last, let's say, the last 2.5 hours watching 5 consecutive episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. Of course, hold on a second. This is one of those nights that I really want to just like bang my head against the table, because now all of a sudden, as we're live streaming, YouTube is asking to verify my account right in the middle of a live stream. I mean, how does this happen? But I'm going to do that. I'm going to verify my account, and we'll just go from there, and we'll see why it is doing this right now in the middle of a friggin' live stream. So this is the world that I live in. Now I have to put in the phone. Oh, Christ. Are you serious? Oh, Lord.
Well, while you do that, I am sitting in for Joe, the angry weatherman, tonight.
Yes, if they can see us, because they're making me verify. Oh, of all things to happen. Oh, Jesus. All right.
I'm going to take my disguise off. The heck with it.
All right. Well, the account is verified now, so why it did this, I have no friggin' idea. Okay, folks, I don't know what you might have just seen or haven't seen, but in the middle of the beginning of a live stream, YouTube decides that they want me to verify my account. So I don't know if you lost us, if you saw what was going on. So anyway, I was starting to say that I spent the last 2.5 hours, I've watched 5 consecutive Andy Griffith shows, okay? So I just wanted to channel myself in the good mood. And the last one of them was where Otis was being honored by the Women's Historical Society because he turned out to be a descendant of some Civil War, some Revolutionary War guy that blew up a bridge in a snowstorm. Did I say snowstorm? Blew up a bridge in a snowstorm in order to allow George Washington, who I don't know if he was ever in North Carolina, to cross some bridge and beat the British. Okay, so we got that story. And then there was the last story where old man Ben was trying to foreclose on the Scobies so that he could get their property and build a warehouse. and they had to go out and raise like $700 and something, and then Andy was trying to all these workarounds in order to. So I'm trying to figure out if I'm Andy the good guy or if I'm Ben the bad guy tonight. But me, I'm the good guy, so I'm not. I'm not going to get. I'm not going to get too. I'll do it in a funny way. We'll just do it that. We'll just say that. But go ahead, because I've been getting messages all day.
I thought you were going to whip me with a wet noodle.
No. Look, you and I have both been down this road often enough for the last 41 years. This is not the first time. We've been throwing. You've been throwing off the buck, and it won't be the last time either.
It won't be the last time either.
No.
Yeah.
A few people messaged me that they were a little upset when you wrote me about bringing up the ATZ run yesterday. But that's fine. You and I have known each other for 41 years. This is not going to be. This is not any kind of deal breaker.
I knew I was in trouble when the Zero-Z NAM upped the accumulation or upped the quantitative precipitation for liquid by about 1/10 of an inch. But more importantly, after I spent the better part of last night's show proclaiming that the lower end of the atmosphere is going to be much too dry to support much of any snow until about 3 or 4 in the morning, at 11:30 last night, it started to snow at my house. And when I saw that, I looked up and I said,
"Yeah, you're cooked."
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Actually,
that was it. That was it.
I know, but actually, if you look at some of the guidance was showing that it was going to snow up in the north of Route 84 to Western Connecticut by around midnight tonight, and up in Western Massachusetts by about midnight. We talked yesterday. One of the things that's really important, if you're a young forecaster and you're watching this show, and when something like this happens, one of the truly important things you need to do, and nobody does this, but what you really need to do is go back and look to see just exactly where you kind of went off the trail. And Joe just said when he saw it was snowing up at 11:30. I think what wound up happening, we talked about last night how you had the NAM. The NAM had that kind of hole that was carved out near the coast, and you're sort of waiting for the ocean, some sort of secondary low to fill in. And then you had the global models, which are kind of saying, well, there's not really much of a secondary here. You got this primary that's going to maybe do a center jump and just bring that whole western area of moisture eastward. And I think because we had a fairly intact shortwave that was coming down, that a lot of that moisture wound up holding together. I woke up a little bit before 4, and I looked at the observations. I have to tell you, I was actually quite shocked. First I looked at the radar, and I was like, why is there all this dark green all over Long Island and Connecticut and going into Rhode Island? And then I looked at these observations, and I'm seeing, moderate and S pluses breaking out everywhere. I thought, okay, I guess that means that my higher forecast is going to work, but apparently I wasn't high enough because we wound up for a 6-hour event. For a 6-hour event, we did pretty well. I mean, a lot of areas got there was basically 6 to 10 inches across most of Long Island, and oddly enough, Nassau County may have actually gotten more than Suffolk did, and we thought it would be the other way around. There was, every time there's
that was weird.
Yeah, very weird. And every time there's a snow event, there's always weird stuff that happened. New Jersey seemed to behave a bit better. It was, about 3 inches up in Northwest Jersey. Everybody else was between, say, 4 and 6. So that sort of behaved. You had upside where you were. The bigger upside was from, New York City had 6 inches. LaGuardia had 8. So Northeastern New Jersey, Westchester County, across all of Southern Connecticut, and then go on out into Eastern Connecticut, where they had a lot of places at 10, 11, 12. And up into Southeastern New England. I mean, those places, those places really seriously outperformed. Um, it's very interesting. I really found both storms this week were very similar. And obviously the second one was different, but this is how you learn. And even here we are after 41 years. We're always still learning. So this to me is a learning experience, and not not where you take a bat and beat somebody over the head with it because you didn't get as much. You got more snow than what you were forecasting, what you thought you were going to get.
Dorothy Hamill, who was the Olympic skating champion in the mid 70s, I think 1976 at the Winter Olympics. And I remember her on, it was either the Mike Douglas show or the Merv Griffin show. And they were chatting about, as she was growing up and learning how to skate. And she said, "Oh my God, you had no idea how many times I fell on my," and she patted her derriere, "how many times I fell on the ice before I finally got the hang of it." And he said, "I still occasionally fall on the ice over there sometimes, although you don't get a chance to see it because it's in practice." But the bottom line of it is, and this goes true for people who are starting out in weather, Joe, you're gonna blow it. There are gonna be times, and even right up until now, 41 years, you said, for both of us, and I honestly thought that this thing was going to, intensify. But also, I thought that with the fast speed, that it was a very progressive system, that it just wouldn't have the time to do what it did. But
Yeah.
it did.
Well, look,
And
here's
and
where here's where a couple of things that I think, in situations like this, and I agree with you, the fast time was an issue. So, um, one of the things that kind of struck me when I was watching, the progress over the last couple of days were the fact that it started. As I said, I forgot when it was. It started, I think, on Wednesday night when I looked at the 18Z European, and I started noticing that there were these sort of very small incremental increases in the amount of snow and in the amount of moisture, and that carried through all day Thursday and into Thursday night, right up until through the 0Z run on last night, which is the 0Z run for Friday. So that was one thing that struck me. The other thing that struck me was the fact that you had the globals doing that, just taking all the moisture that was coming up from the southwest and just essentially keeping it intact and sort of just sucking in the Atlantic moisture, which was different from what the NAM was doing, which was keeping the two of them separate. And then you had the secondary moisture, which was basically taking over, but kind of getting you into the same place. The place you never want to be in a system that's deepening is where the deepening is beginning to take place. And I think that was probably the last part of this equation that was really important, was the fact that it's kind of like being in a thunderstorm where the thunderstorm is in the intensification process, because that's usually when the lightning is at its worst. And that, when you're in that point where the thunderstorms are developing overhead, you wind up with the worst of it. And while, our time was cut down, I think the fact that we were in that development period, that very beginning of the deepening phase where the storm was going to eventually explode off of Cape Cod, we didn't catch that. We didn't get under a comma head or anything, but we were in that formative developing phase. And that's where, it gets really tricky as far as, because you could very well underperform, but you could also outperform. And it's a variable that
this was an outperformer.
And this was an outperformer. So look, I think you obviously, you were off, you were wrong in your amounts, they were too low. Okay. I was my amounts were higher, so they were less wrong, but I still didn't get it perfect either. The bottom line is that I believe, I think you had legitimate
Joe,
reasons.
before you continue,
Yeah.
Before you continue, we have would one of the moderators get rid of this guy Groper, please?
Oh, I can do that.
Like, Come on.
What's he saying?
Yeah, it's
Where is he?
well, it's not. It's what he's spelling, Joe. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
All right.
Thanks, Johnny Quest.
Continue.
So I don't know what I was going to say is that the bottom line is I think you had legitimate, your meteorological observations of what was going on were perfectly legitimate. They didn't, and they didn't turn out right. Monday, I had the way I was looking at it. I was with the dry air, which I recognized. I was kind of trying to, get that snow to come up further to the north, and it never happened on the northern flank. Okay. Both cases, I think, you could say that those meteorological arguments were legitimate. They worked on Monday. For you, they didn't work on Friday. They didn't work today, and the situations were both very
Yeah.
similar. So, you know, you learn. You admit you're wrong. You learn. You look where the mistake. Where you erred, and then you move on. That's what you do. And that's what I
And
have always done, and that's it.
with every situation like what we had yesterday, there's always that potential that the time bomb is going to explode while you're trying to, keep it from blowing up. And if I just assumed arbitrarily that every storm was going to do what the one last night did, people would eventually say, "Oh, that Rayo, that he's always going for the big one. He's the disaster forecaster. He's going for like far more than anybody else." I don't do that. I try to play at the middle of the road and maybe even a bit on the conservative side. And again, every once in a while, you're going to get one like last night where this thing just blew up. I mean, my God, 3 hours. In 3 hours, we were seeing snow coming down at the rate of 2 inches per hour in some places, even more perhaps. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. That happened last night. And again, I also, this is not, you know, trying to, put down what I did. But I mentioned last night, I even brought up a couple of maps last night from the folks over at the Weather Prediction Center who are paid on a daily basis to look at these things. And if you remember last night at the Weather Prediction Center, they had given very low probability for more than 4 inches in the immediate New York City metropolitan area. And you look at that and you look at what you came up with and you say, all right, somebody else is thinking along my lines. That makes me feel a little bit better. We all blew it.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Yep. So look, enough. We've done the mea culpa is done. We're all adults here, so now
You know who else? Another person, a friend of ours, who emailed me this afternoon was our dear friend Lonnie Quinn. And Lonnie, as you know, a lot of you know, whenever something big is going to happen in Lonnie's mind, he takes the jacket off and rolls up his sleeves. And he didn't do that yesterday or last night. And he said, if there's one thing I wish I had done is to take the jacket off and roll up my sleeves, but I didn't think this was going to be what it turned out to be.
Well, Lonnie can just,
Lonnie,
Lonnie can just turn around and blame CBS for keeping the heat off because they're trying to save money there.
Oh, if any of you out there were
Gets
hoping
cold
to see
in those
me,
damn studios.
like angry. Well, especially in the Ed Sullivan Theater when Letterman was doing his show there.
Oh,
he
yeah.
purposely kept the temperatures way down to keep the audience awake.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, that's how it works. No, if Lonnie didn't have the shirt sleeves up, then clearly, he's going to have to. You're right. He just didn't take it seriously enough, and he's going to have to take a little bit of mea culpa. The next time he's going to have to take his shirt completely off in order to get the kind of attention he needs. Lonnie, I know you're watching this show. You know that I mean this in the most loving way. I love you almost as much as I love my laundry. So, don't take it. We're just kidding. We're just, we're just, kidding around. And Mr. Contino, Lonnie Quinn knows a lot more about weather than you think. The man's got his pilot's license. The man has taken a number of courses. He's pretty well versed in what's going on. So, give him give him a break and just lay off. All right.
And he was down. He was in Miami, the Miami market, and whenever they had hurricanes down there, he this is an example now. I'm 65 years old, and I used to know these names and facts like that.
Yeah, hang on one
Joe
second.
is the guy who made a mark.
Lay off. Okay, lay off Lonnie Quinn. Just lay off. Go on.
Who was the guy who became a legend down in South Florida whenever there was a hurricane? The broadcaster.
What was his name?
See,
I forgot.
See, you having the same brain lock I am.
The one, are you talking about? Are you talking about the one that got famous after Hurricane Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah. And then ultimately wound up losing the job at the station that he was at in some budget cut thing or something. I forgot his name. I forgot.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, Lonnie worked with him, and he was always down at the Hurricane Center providing people in South Florida with the very latest information. And you're right, he does have a pilot's license. And, even though he's not a degreed meteorologist, in the same way, in a different way or a different manner, but the way we all used to watch Tex Antoine in the 60s and the 50s, the 60s, and even into the early 70s. I mean, Tex picked up a lot of meteorological knowledge from doing weather on television for all of those years. It's weather is empiricism. The more you're into it, the better you get in terms of forecaster and more knowledgeable you get. And so, even those. Remember Bob Harris here in New York, Dr. Bob. He was very highly respected by many people. So what I'm saying is that sometimes you don't necessarily, even if you don't have the degree, you still can be a very, very credible forecaster and very well respected. So that's all I have to say.
Let's just move on from all of this. So let's move ahead.
Yes.
We've got the weekend coming up. I'm thinking maybe for some inland areas, because I think by the time it reaches the coast, which will be after about noontime, it'll be a little bit too warm. But eastern Pennsylvania, maybe western New Jersey, up in the Catskills, if the rain comes in, rain gets in there in the morning between, say, daybreak and noon, that there's going to be freezing rain ahead of the next Arctic front. And then it looks like we're going to have the coldest air of the season coming in for early next week. I'm thinking Tuesday morning, teens and maybe single digits inland. And highs on Tuesday may not get much above the low 20s in most places. There are going to be a lot of spots that are going to be struggling to get out of the teens.
Right. I think here in the Hudson Valley, where I am, 19 degrees is about as high as I think we're going to see. And of course, also there's going to be a rather gusty wind. So, Monday night, Tuesday night, we may be seeing wind chills, Joe, down near or even below zero. It's going to be pretty darn chilly or cold tonight. The temperatures we've got here in the Hudson Valley in the teens, and I think we'll be down to something like 0 to 5 above on the wind chill or feels like temperature range come tomorrow morning.
Yeah. By the way, Johnny Quest says was it Brian Norcross?
Brian Norcross. That's it.
Thanks, Johnny.
That's who we. Yeah.
By
Don't worry, Johnny. When you get as old as us, you'll forget names too.
Yeah, because we're old. We're older than dirt. Before they disappear, let me just thank Jason Kaplan, David Carter, and there was one more, Steve Lapointe, for hitting the super chat tip jar tonight. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. Most appreciated indeed. And so now we got that out of the way. It was Brian Norcross. All right, so why don't we take a look? Let's do some maps and see where we're going. I've got some interesting ideas in my head about the long range, so we'll explore that as well. So let's start with tonight. Go ahead.
Let me just read the technical discussion from the Weather Prediction Center for Sunday. for a lot of you, not just in the New York metropolitan area, but in the Northeast corridor from Washington all the way up to Boston. Modest return flow ahead of the mid-level trough and associated surface front, that's the Arctic front that we're talking about, will spread warm air advection precipitation into the area, into the Northeast on Sunday morning. Now, they point out, the forecaster's name is Weiss. He says the 850 temperatures are going to climb well above 0 Celsius, but it's the surface temperatures, and that isn't that always the case when you're
Yes.
talking about freezing rain or ice. The surface, a very shallow layer of cold air down by the surface level. Surface wet bulb readings likely will remain below freezing, at least initially, across much of the Northeast. This will produce a period of freezing rain across parts of the mid-Atlantic into southern New England, with the longest duration of freezing rain likely in central Pennsylvania, across the Catskills, the Berkshires. Weather Prediction Center probabilities are as high as 50% for 0.1 inches, in other words, 1/10 of an inch of ice. But if you look on the maps on the WPC website, you'll find that all the freezing rain maps are devoid of anything. They don't show anything for the Northeast. But that's only for 1/4 of an inch or more. They're talking about 1/10 of an inch, which is more than enough to cause problems, considering that we had only a couple of hundredths of an inch on Wednesday when I fell flat on my face twice on my driveway. So they're talking about the chance for freezing rain. Elsewhere, light freezing rain accreting to a few hundredths of an inch is becoming more and more likely along the I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C. to Boston, Massachusetts. So if you have any intention on Sunday morning of traveling anywhere, especially along the I-95 corridor, again, from Washington to Boston, take it extra, extra, extra easy, because we may very well have another significant icing event coming on Sunday. And that means, of course, that once again, for the umpteenth time, Joe, I can't remember a week where we've had so many winter weather advisories posted either for ice or rain. This would be number 4 in the span of less than a week's time on Sunday morning if this transpires. We're doing pretty good considering that it was such a mild December. And all of a sudden now in 2022 January, all of a sudden we flipped and we've gone right into a real wintry weather pattern around here.
Yeah, you know what? That pattern looks like it might hold for a while too, from what I was looking at today. But more on that later. But just going back to this freezing rain situation, usually on a southwest wind, you warm up nicely. But this time of year, in January in particular, and situations like this where you're going from cold air mass to cold air mass separated by a cold front, and you only have, I mean, you literally only have a handful of hours before as one cold air mass moves out and the next one's about to move in. So you don't have time to warm it up. Plus, the air to the south and west is actually cold. I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you 2 perfect examples. Johnny Quest, who just hit Super Chat, and thank you, Johnny, for that. He's in northwestern Virginia. Now, granted, he's up at 3,000 feet. He's 3 degrees right now, and he had 9 inches of snow there. And there's snow cover across the Carolina mountains, back through Tennessee, Kentucky. So that west-southwest wind is coming over snow cover. And guess what? Here I am now. I'm at 2,200 feet where I'm doing the show tonight from North Georgia. Joe, my low this morning was 19. My high today was 31. I did not get above freezing here today. It barely got above 30. I only hit 31 at about 3:30 this afternoon for like 10 seconds. I happened to be looking at my thermostat, which has a connection. Right. Well, no, the thermostat in the house for the heat, but it has the outside temperature connection, so I get the outside temperature on it. 31, and in at the airport, which is at 1,900 feet, they were 33. So, and by the way, the mountains here all got if you go up above 4,000 feet, those mountaintops above 4,000 feet all had what was probably about 3 to 6 inches worth of new snow that fell Thursday. When was it? Not Thursday night, but Wednesday night into Thursday. I think it was Was it Wednesday night into Thursday, or was it last night? Everything's starting to pile up on me. No, it might have been. It might have been yesterday afternoon. Yeah, it was yesterday afternoon. I'm sorry. So there's actually there's not that much warm air to the southwest. So the low levels are going to have a real tough time getting above freezing. I really agree. I strongly agree with with what this gentleman was it from WPC you said, right? I strongly agree with the notion of freezing rain. I'm going to see if I get uh, the ice map, because the ice map will go out. So I'll be curious. I'm going to load that up, and while it's loading, we'll switch over to the radar. And from earlier today, this was at noontime today. You can see the echoes were just beginning to pull out of Boston, which had 11 and a half. The chairman let me know, Scott Briller, that Central Park finished up with 5.8 when this was all said and done. Now the current radar in the Northeast, we're seeing what's left of, excuse me, some lake effect streamers that have been going on. Just taking a swig here of my cranberry juice. And as we take a look at the radar to the west, you're seeing the moisture that's moving over the northern plains. That's part of the low and the cold front that's coming east that is going to bring the precipitation here for Sunday ahead of the Arctic boundary. So that's what's going to kick off the potential for some freezing rain. Hey, you know what? A tenth of an inch of ice accretion, 5/100ths of an inch of ice accretion. As you said, even a couple of hundredths of ice accretion is enough to send you flying on your rear end. This could be, I hope people pay attention to this possibility. Freezing rain is far worse than snow, far worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I mentioned the other day, the Rangers or the Islanders or the Devils, they could have I could have asked all of them to come to my house. They could have had a practice game on my driveway. It was, and there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of ice. I mean, it was only about maybe a couple of hundredths of an inch, if that much, and yet it was absolutely treacherous. It's horrible. I'll bet you if I tried driving from my garage down to the local road, in order to get there, I'd have to go down my driveway, and I'm shuddering to think, you have no control. The car probably would have slid right on down on its own onto the street, and the street wasn't much better. I mean, I flopped at the end of the driveway. I was going to pick up the two newspapers at the end of my driveway. I flop on my face. I'm looking up. I see a guy coming down the road like at 2 miles an hour, and we both, commiserated. The guy rolls his window down. He says, "Are you hurt? Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine. How are the roads?" He said, "They suck."
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. And down he went and down the road he went at 2 miles an hour. It was horrible. So that having been said, if none of you want to go through something like that, stay indoors on Sunday morning if you can. I know that's difficult for some because Sunday we all want to go to our house of worship, but maybe even the house of worship will be understanding if you don't show up by noontime, because it may very well be a very treacherous go on Sunday morning.
Yeah, the ice accretion map is up on the screen from the digital forecast from the Weather Service. Now they've got the eastern edge of it just north and west of the I-95, but not by much. It wouldn't take much. Excuse me. I've been coughed all day, and now in the middle of the show I am. It wouldn't take much for that ice, that edge of that 0.01 to get pushed to the east. This is freezing rain. Brings back some memories on the Long Island Expressway that I really don't want to relive. and that includes that I don't remember if you remember there's that that hill, Joe, that's at exit 50 and I'm sorry, between exit 49, Route 110, and then if you're going westbound, then you go up this big hill. So I was at 3:30 in the
Right.
morning.
That's not too far from the village. The village restoration was there, right?
So yeah, exactly. So I was driving to work. It was 3:30 in the morning. It was freezing drizzle. It was like a skating rink. I was literally crawling, and I get underneath. They go underneath the overpass at Route 110. So now you can see you're sort of at the base of this hill, and I stopped my car because at the top of the hill there was a Mack truck that didn't quite make it to the top, and the truck turned sideways and rolled down the hill sideways all the way down, and then he wound up coming to a halt about maybe, I don't know, 35, 40 feet in front of me. Just came to a stop. So it was like one of those, it was one of those moments where, I sort of vowed after that I was never going to do a freezing rain drive ever again, and thank God I didn't have to make that choice, because I don't think we ever had another incident where I had to drive in freezing rain like that. So
I think I may remember that, because I was having my own problems that morning as well. And wasn't that the morning that our mutual friend Carol Silva wrecked her car? I think she drove a Saab.
Yes.
And it was an icy morning. Yeah.
It may very well have been.
Not too good, folks.
No, not at all.
Not too good. When ice, I would prefer to drive on 5 inches of snow as preferred to 5/100ths of an inch of ice. So
any day.
Again, take it extra easy on Sunday if you have to be out on Sunday morning, because we're thankful. It should be thankful it's a Sunday and not a regular commuter day, Monday through Friday, because it could very well be like it was here 2 days ago. It was mayhem 2 days ago because of all that ice.
Yeah. So I got the GFS up, and we can take a look first at the surface, and then we'll look at what's going on aloft, and then we'll talk a little bit about the long range. 87 likes. Thank you very much for those of you who've hit the like button. And if you do like the show, hit the like button, please, because Joe and I both love it when it goes over 100. And it's nice to see a nice crowd for a Friday night when everybody's usually either having dinner or a happy hour, if they are going out these days. With the 176 current users, I hope you like what you see. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel with your Gmail account, so you can get notified when Joe and I do our shows, which is usually 5 days a week. So here's the approaching front, and you can see on the GFS that it picks up on that freezing rain. Now, it has some trouble holding on to it because we're seeing the 6-hour increment, so you can't see what's going on in between. But there's still some freezing rain showing up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in eastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, and parts of the Hudson Valley. The models sometimes like to warm those bottom levels way too fast, particularly in situations like this where we have snow cover. Now, that snow cover is going to make a big difference, particularly if it's clear. With the front approaching, it could very well be clear for a good part of Saturday night. And if there's not a whole lot of wind, which is also possible, we might radiate in some places too. So that could also add to the cause here. Fortunately, the Arctic front does come through with a narrow band of showers. It gets out of the way, and then in comes very cold air for Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday of next week. You can see the high dropping from North Dakota down into West Virginia by Tuesday afternoon, and then it kind of sitting down in Virginia by the time we get to Wednesday. Then as we move on through next week, a brief warm-up before we get another cold front that comes through late on Thursday. And then after that, I'm not 100% sure how this is going to play, because we've got blockiness. The NAO is supposed to go negative. So the pattern's starting to look a little blocky, with pressures rising all across the North Atlantic and across the North Pole. I think that's going to have longer-term implications. The WPC folks in their long range? Were they not indicating around, what was it, the 16th or 17th as a time of risk for?
They're still doing it.
Yeah.
They're still
So, I
doing that,
mean,
Joe.
yeah, there is something for around the 15th. And then the model this morning was trying to show, both the European and the GFS earlier were trying to show a low going out underneath us during the 17th or 18th. But now, it doesn't have it now, but remember, it does. The models do like to use, the GFS in particular likes to lose storms in the mid range that it shows in the longer range, and then it brings them back. Excuse
Right.
me. So we might see that again. So I wouldn't necessarily look at this and say, "Oh, it's gone. Nothing's going to happen." And then we do have another cold air mass coming down for the week of the 17th, and then another storm system and cold front to follow around January 19th, if this is correct, to be followed by another very cold air mass coming in around the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Joe, I was looking at the long range, and we talked on the upper air, and particularly, I'm going to bring the 10 millibar up. And one of the things, I mentioned this yesterday. I've been watching this, and we've been getting this volatility from run to run with regards to what the model's doing with the polar vortex. On some runs, it wants to wrap it up like a tight ball in the long range and put it up in Siberia, and that would argue for a big warm up toward the end of the month. And then you've got these other runs that want to keep the polar vortex. It keeps the polar vortex up there, but it's got this sort of elongated look to it, and this trough that runs down into the eastern part of the United States. And the last few runs have gone to this elongated look. So, I'm looking at this and actually even migrating the polar vortex back down to Greenland in this kind of long stretch. So I'm thinking that this is, if that holds true, the rest of the month may wind up being pretty cold and pretty wintry most of the time. And I think that's also going to mean that we'll probably have more snow chances along the way.
This looks like it's going to be a very active month, although on the experimental 3 to 4 week prog, the Climate Prediction Center actually paints a broad swath of below normal precipitation for the eastern part of the country. And so, I don't know, they're thinking maybe that perhaps it's going to be quiet, or maybe they think that the cold air that
Overwhelms.
is anticipated and what we're talking about will overwhelm any storm. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's already, look, did you honestly believe, as we were getting ready to ring in the new year a week ago, that we would have seen such an active pattern during this week? 2 snowstorms, an ice situation, and now here we are looking at another possible icy condition for Sunday morning, staring us right in the face. And here, on the long range, we're talking about, again, more than a few possible storms coming our way in the coming days and weeks. It's really amazing how active everything has gotten. So I hope all of you who were complaining about the fact that December was relatively boring or disappointing, or thinking that we were going to have a front-loaded winter. Well, guess what? You've got your pattern all set up.
Yep.
We've had it, and we're going to continue with it.
And by the way, later next week, after that Arctic air mass that comes in earlier in the week pulls out, there is this. If you look at the upper air, if you want to argue that this might be your quote unquote January thaw, that would be for, say, Wednesday and Thursday of next week, and it would be more evident in the plains and down into the Gulf states, where you would see the bigger warm up, because in the east the heights are not going to get all that high, so you're going to kind of be on the edge of this. And by the way, it doesn't last, because by the time we get to the end of the week, all of a sudden we've got troughing setting up in the eastern part of the United States again. And you can see also what I was talking about with respect to the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO. All of this is all below normal pressures all across. It's not only just a negative NAO, but it's also a very strongly negative Arctic oscillation that's setting up here. You've got higher pressures from Alaska east across all of the across the pole to Greenland, all the way to through Iceland and beyond. So it's ideal for cold air to just come sweeping down on a regular basis into the eastern part of the United States, one cold air mass after another. And as we just kind of migrate through the longer range here, the trough in the east only gets stronger. And, I mean, this is just a cold look overall in the longer term. We'll see how long it holds up because, no pattern stays forever. I also just want to quickly look at one of the things that's been missing is the teleconnections. I don't know what's going on over at the long range folks, but they have not updated the NAO or the PNA or the AO since the 5th. So for some reason, they must be having some problems, or maybe the budget wasn't approved. I don't know what's going on over there, but we don't have any kind of updated teleconnections coming out of there. But I can tell you that much of the time over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be dealing with a negative North Atlantic oscillation. We're going to be dealing with a negative Arctic oscillation. We're going to be dealing with a positive, or at worst, a slightly positive Pacific North America index. And we're going to be dealing with a negative East Pacific oscillation, which I think of all of them is probably the most important. So you're going to have all your teleconnections there as far as, if you want winter weather, you couldn't ask for anything better than this. But whether that's going to wind up meaning anything with respect to snow, for example, that's a whole nother story. And we'll just have to, like you said, just because it's cold doesn't mean it's stormy. It could also be too cold and be cold and dry. The chairman, Scott Briller, hitting the super chat tip jar tonight. Thank you, Scott. Atlantic City this week, 17.2 inches of snow, which is exceeding. They've already gone above normal for the winter. But remember, Joe, the winter was over at the end of this. The winter was over in late December. The towels were just, actually around middle December, the towels were just flying everywhere. Just couldn't.
I got it. You mentioned about how we may get a modest warm up later next week, but of course, it's going to get very cold early next week. Man is and women too, very acclimating to change in climate. So we'll become acclimated to the frigidity, if you will, of Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday. But when we get to Thursday and Friday of next week, here in the Hudson Valley, I'm calling for temperatures in the upper 30s to near 40. That's not exactly warm. In fact, that's close to seasonal.
It'll feel warm.
Still, it's going to feel. People be dancing in the street after what we're about to go through between the ice on Sunday and the frigidity of Monday and Tuesday. 40 degrees is going to sound pretty good by next Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. Why don't we do a little Briller Jeopardy? And
yes, we will have. I have the questions tonight.
Excuse me, folks. Just getting a little tired, and I'm still dealing with what I'm dealing with. So if I get a little bit of a flare up, it usually causes me to cough a bit. This is what I'm struggling with. But go on. Yeah, you have it tonight, so I'm ready.
Yes. So tonight, Joe, we have one of your very favorite shows as part of Briller Jeopardy, Perry Mason.
Okay. Or as my grandmother used to call it, la maison. She says she wanted to watch it in Italian. She would say she loved watching Perry Mason, La Maison. Now, look, I'm just going to say I love Perry Mason. I think I've seen probably every episode, but I haven't seen every episode to the point where I know a lot about the show. So if we're going to start asking me about specific episodes, I'm probably not going to get a lot of these right. But that being said, let's go. Let's roll.
6 out of 8. 6 out of 8 to be found not
Right.
guilty, says the chairman. All right. So for question number 1, Raymond Burr originally auditioned for the part of
Hamilton Burger.
Hamilton Burger. And I believe that Dennis Hopper, no, not Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Cassia.
The guy who plays,
No, wasn't Dennis Cassia?
The
guy who played, what was it?
I'm so happy
the guy
this is
who
the
played
end of the week.
the guy who played McCloud.
Right. And also
Dennis who?
Dennis Weaver.
Dennis Weaver. Yes. Okay.
Right. But who's the first name of the guy who was Hedda Hopper's son?
Oh, Bill Hopper. William Hopper.
Right, William Hopper. Right. Okay.
And
he wanted to play Perry Mason. He
auditioned. And he appeared in the movie The Bad Seed, which is one of the, which is a pretty nasty. I mean, well, it's a well done movie, and back in I think it came out in 56 or 57, and but Patty McCormick plays the little girl with no conscience that goes around murdering people. It's a really, really nasty movie to. Yeah, it's well done. But anyway, yes, go ahead. Bill Hopper was Hedda Hopper's son.
Right. Number 2, how many episodes were there? And he gives you a leeway of within 47 for credit. Wasn't it like 200 and I want to say 257? You're within that range, so that's very good. 271. 271, okay. The last one. That includes also the sponsorship. That also includes the sponsorship for Beadzo Bleach. Yes. And Dutch Girl. And Prel shampoo and Dutch Girl. Dutch Girl cleanser. How about this for number 3? Right. What state did Della come from on the Perry Mason show? And she only mentioned it, and you say you've seen all of them, but only once in the 271 episodes does he mention what state. What state did she come from? Della did. Oh my God, I have no idea. None. Let me see if I can figure it out. Tennessee. Okay. I was going to say, let me see if I could try to figure it out, but I could tell you quite honestly, I never would have said Tennessee. Excuse me. Tennessee tuxedo will not fail. All right. Raymond Burr won an Emmy for leading actor how many times as Perry Mason? I'm going to say twice. And you win twice. Fantastic. Number 5, name the 3 Star Trek actors who appeared on Perry Mason. The 3 Star Trek actors that appeared. Okay, so, I don't think William Shatner did. I don't remember one with William Shatner. I want to say, all right, I'll say maybe, because it might have been the kind of show he would have done. Maybe it's an episode I haven't seen. I'll say Leonard Nimoy, George Takei, and the actor who played the engineer. I forgot his name. Played Scotty, yeah. So that would be my guess. You got 2 out of 3. Leonard Nimoy, right, who was Mr. Spock, and George Takei, who played Mr. Sulu, right. And then there was DeForest Kelly. Oh, DeForest okay. Kelly, the doctor. Yes, now I do. I'm a doctor, Jim. Right. Okay, I know this one. I wasn't really a big Perry Mason fan, but I was immediately I recognized this. What is the significance about the case of the twice told twist?
The Case of the Twice
Which
Told. Was that the episode where Perry lost the case? No, it wasn't. Say it again. What was the title? The Case of the what?
The Case of the Twice Told Twist. And I'll hint at you, although it's not much of a hint because he appeared on many Perry Masons. But Victor Buono was in this particular episode.
Well, there was one where he played.
But that's not what makes this significant.
Right. There's one where he plays an artist, and he turns out to be the killer. I remember that one. Yeah, he did a few of those episodes, but you know what? I don't know the answer to this.
I'll give you one last hint.
Okay.
This was the only one of the 271 episodes where this happened.
Well, I mean, I think there was
one
episode. I think
it was in season.
Was it
season 9, episode 21?
I mean, there was that one episode where Perry played two characters, where he played himself. I
love that episode.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was that episode. I don't know what the answer is.
This was the only episode, Twice Told Twist, that was filmed in color.
Oh, okay, all right.
The only color episode of Perry Mason out of the 271.
Okay.
Getting back to our dear friend Mr. Hooper or Mr. Hopper. It says on my script over here that was typed out by Scott. He says William Hooper, but it was not. It was William Hopper. What was the name of the character played by William Hopper?
Oh, Paul Drake.
Had his son, Paul Drake.
Paul Drake.
Paul, you've got to find this, Paul.
Right.
Number 8. What was the first name of Lieutenant Tragg?
Oh my God. You know, I can't. Boy, I need to. Ray Collins played Lieutenant Tragg, and wonderful character actor. If you watch enough old movies, he shows up in so many movies and a lot of classic movies. And he worked with Orson Welles early on. He was in Citizen Kane, The Magnificent Ambersons, and he was also in Best Years of Our Lives. He's in a lot of movies and was well known, but I don't remember Lieutenant Tragg's first name. I remember, I could tell Arthur. I was going to say there are a couple of episodes where I think Perry calls him by his first name, but I didn't recall it.
Isn't it amazing? And the one thing about the Perry Mason series is that they all go at each other, you know, hammer and tongs, so to speak.
Right.
They go at each other, you know, and especially in the courtroom, and yet in the end they're all like good friends. You know, let's go meet at the bar and have a few drinks, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But
next question.
Anyway, that's it.
Okay.
You got 6 out of the 8, so you get the go free out of jail card or whatever.
Okay. So I got a problem for Sunday for a dayside show. So we need to move it. So if we can,
okay.
If we could do it Sunday evening, I don't know what I don't think we have to do it at 7:30. So if you want to do it a little earlier, we could do it at 6 o'clock or 6:30 if that works for you.
Why don't we do it? I'll tell you what. Why don't we do it right after the Jets and Giants lose their final game of the season?
Is this
whenever that may be.
I thought last Sunday was the last week of the season, but or is it this coming Sunday?
This
okay.
Is it.
All right. So let's do it. How about 7?
So
how about 7 o'clock?
How about 7 o'clock?
Okay, so 7.
I'm game.
So no, the show on Sunday, instead of being at its usual 11 o'clock time, will be at 7 o'clock in the p.m. Okay, I don't want so not to confuse anybody that it would be 7 o'clock in the morning, because that just is not happening. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by, again, Omni True Value Hardware. Support your local businesses, folks. That's very important these days. And Omni is a Long Island local business at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. Their phone number is 631-756-1125. They have everything you need to make sure your house is clean and safe this winter, with getting rid of snow and ice, from rock salt to the great snow and ice melt products that are out there, to spreaders, snow blowers, and shovels in case you need any of that. So get over to Omni. Again, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. So, okay, so I think we're good.
And I just want a little television note tonight for all of you who have access to Me TV. At 9:30 Eastern Standard Time this evening, they are going to play the very first episode of Green Acres, which is actually done. It's actually done in the form of a mockumentary. The very first episode, and for their guest on this particular first episode, John Daly, who was, I guess, at the height of his fame back in 1965 when they filmed this episode. John Daly was the moderator of the game show What's My Line, but he also had, during the 1940s and 50s, a very highly regarded career as a news anchor on first CBS and then ABC. In fact, he was the guy, Joe, in 1941 who broke in on CBS Radio, the network, to tell everybody in December of 1941 that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. Anyway, he is going to be on tonight on this first episode of Green Acres to tell you the story about Oliver Wendell Douglas and how he fell in love with a dilapidated farm in Hootersville, as his wife Lisa called it.
Oliver.
So if you ever wanted to see the very first episode, and see Lisa's reaction when they drive, I think it was the Lincoln Continental or whatever, he drives up to this dilapidated shack. Why are we stopping here, Oliver? He says, "This is our new home, Green Acres," and I'll let you see what Lisa's reaction was to that.
Well, I do not have.
That's at 9:30 tonight. For those,
I do not have Me TV, so maybe I can go on their website and see if I can watch it there. So, but I have seen the episode
anyway,
you're talking about. Yes, tonight. So there's your set your DVRs, folks, or just watch it live. And if you haven't seen a show that was made before the year 2000, this is your opportunity, because this was made way before the year 2000. So thank you for the super chat
sure
hits.
That you're going to.
Go ahead.
I'm sure you're going to indulge yourself this weekend. I'm sure, if not this weekend, sometime during the upcoming week, either Turner Classic Movies or American Movie Classics are going to be showing a lot of the Sidney Poitier.
Yes. Also, Peter Bogdanovich died today. Also,
Bogdanovich.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they seem to be all going very quickly right now, lately.
Right.
So yeah, it's very sad to hear on both for Sidney Poitier and Peter Bogdanovich, and of course we had Betty White just a few days before. Yeah, it's been a very strange couple of weeks from that respect. All right, thank you everybody for being here tonight on this Friday night. Thanks for the super chat hits, the 131 likes, and also to any of the new folk that have watched the show for the first time. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch the show, which is usually on 5 nights a week. So have a great Friday. We'll see you Sunday at 7 p.m. Sunday, 7 p.m. Good night, everybody.
Nighty-night.
All right.